Hi everyone, welcome back to 33 Founders. Chase and I are really excited to be with Neil Capel today, the founder and CEO of Sailthru. Thanks so much for joining us, Neil.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Neil, we want to start out simple. What's the greatest customer experience you've ever had?
Greatest customer experience I've ever had. That's a challenging question. I'm not going to say one of our customers. I've got to find something else to do there than just that. But I think for me, really, I'll tell you the story of when I was growing up and seeing my dad in the greengrocer store that we grew up in, and he really understood everybody that walked in that store. And so it's not my best experience, I would say, but it's seeing the way that he would interact with people. He really managed to get people into the store, and he knew exactly who to greet with their first name, their last name, their sir, madam. He knew exactly how to greet them every single time, and if he didn't know them, he got to know them immediately in that first visit. And he would take them through the store, and this was in the days where it was all service. There wasn't self-service in the fruit and veg. You literally, there was guys there, they would stand there with their brown coats on, and they would take you around, and they would pick out the apples and put them in the paper bag. And he would give that experience. It would literally go around, and he knew what they were going to buy before they did. He knew the people that kept rabbits and bought kale back in the day, because that's the only time people bought kale back then, was for their rabbits. Now it's a superfood, but that's a whole nother story. But and he knew exactly where they were, and he would go around and he would take them around the entire shop, and they would have such a fantastic experience that they really would always come back. To tie it all together, that's really where the idea for my company came from. Is really how do we give the best possible consumer experience to customers.
And that's what you just led into, Neil, is that personalized experience in a days where not many things are personalized anymore because of how crowded the spaces have become. Can you tell us about the Sailthru solution and why it's different?
Yeah, the marketing platforms that have really come out in the past have all been very much campaign oriented. They're very much sort of broadcast message. And it was early days of the internet, it was easy, just broadcast the same message to everybody, and maybe start segmenting down into smaller and smaller buckets, but you can only do that so much. It's really about, we built a platform to give the consumer the best possible experience and then deliver that to the marketers, which frankly is a challenge in itself, because now you've got to sell something to the marketer that's not specifically what they're asking for. Because the way that you're going to look after a consumer is giving them what they want. The amount of information that is now available to a consumer on a daily basis is dramatically different from 50 years ago. The most amount of information you could consume 50 years ago was maybe a newspaper. And now, today, there's just tremendous amounts of data. People trying to get your attention from all different kinds of advertisements and etc. That the only experience that can really survive and really build a brand relationship is actually that between the brand and the customer, which is personalized. It is giving that personalized experience at scale, online, to the consumer, so that they want to come back. They feel, they know that they can come back to the brand. And it's really about building that trust factor of saying, yes, we are going to look at what you're doing and give you better recommendations and give you the right amount of frequency. We're not going to hit you over the head every day with an email that's uninterested. We're going to tailor the frequency that we talk to you, tailor the times that we do, so that we can have a better relationship. And that trust has to be there, right? That trust of that data, that flow. Just as as you build a relationship with a person, you tell them stories, you tell them things about you that you don't want them to go broadcast all around the world. You're telling your friends things, and it's the same thing. It's that trust between consumer and brand is vitally important, and I think that that has been forgotten, and it's really about how do we build trust between the customer and the brand, so that when they say I need to buy X, I will go back to that brand.
So what is the biggest misconception about the customer experience, and how can companies address it?
The biggest misconception really is that they look at channels in different ways, right? They look at they'll do their email channel, their web channel, their push notifications, their mobile, and they sort of look at the channel performance. And really, people need to look at the consumer performance. How are we giving? Because the consumer moves mediums, right? The consumer might be an avid buyer and checks every email, and then suddenly they download the app and they go to the app, and now they're an avid app user. Now, if you're hitting them with the email as well, you're going to accelerate them out the funnel. and then they're going to hit unsubscribe in the email. Now you can't email them anymore. And then they go and get the new iPhone today, and they forget to download your app. So now what? You've lost them completely. And I think that you've really got to, it's about the customer experience. We all talk about it. A lot of people talk about the customer experience. How do we improve it? But really focusing on the customer experience. It's looking at that customer as a customer and saying, okay, well, we reached out to them on these channels at these certain points of days, and we have overloaded them. So it's very much about how do you look at the customer? How do you really look at the customer? And I think the misconception there is that people tend to look at the KPIs, the key performance indicators of say their email campaign, their mobile campaign, their web campaigns. You've really got to look at the consumer and what they're coming back, and that's really where people need to focus.
So let's say we have that situation, Neil, where I just got the new iPhone. Now you don't have my email, and I didn't download the app. Is it possible for companies to fix negative customer experiences entirely?
I don't know if it's possible to fix negative customer experiences entirely. I think that the way that you fix that is by continuing communication, is by reaching out to them on the right mediums, right? If you've transitioned a user from email to the mobile app and then they get a new phone, and you've done it well, i.e. that you realize they've gone to the mobile app, and then you've realized the lack of engagement on email, so you've tailed back on the email, then you can reach out to them again and say, oh, well, we haven't seen you in our app in 3 days. Did you upgrade to the new iPhone? You can then get them to download the app. If they don't download the app, then you can continue emailing them. If you've gone this route of sort of just hammering them over the head in email and then on the app, they're not going to want to re-engage, and they've likely unsubscribed and will end. So the interaction, the touch points, the consumer's always telling you something. They're always telling you, how engaged they are, and they go through ebbs and flows. You sign up today to a brand new e-commerce, you're very engaged. You've given them your details, and you may be going to buy today, or maybe buy tomorrow, but you're very engaged. If that retailer just keeps hitting you every day with irrelevant offers, irrelevant products, then you start to ignore the brand, and then you're gone. So it's about having a sort of a sine wave of engagement, figuring out the frequency, the relevancy for that consumer all the time. And you've got to do it on a single level because no one fits in a bucket. You may have an identical twin that signs up 4 days later. Well, they are different in different time zone, right? Because they've signed up 4 days later. They earn a different engagement from that person. They may have exactly the same traits and the exact same interests, but the fact is they're 4 days apart and they should be treated differently. And so it's really about having that on that single user level, which is very difficult to do. I mean, you've got to have all of the data sets. Excuse me.
And that personalization is one of the best ways that companies can defend against competitions, what you've said about customer experience. How can the underdog win, Neil? So let's say you have Uber and you have Lyft, and I'm starting a new ride-sharing company. What can I do to make my company stand out?
That's a good question. With those kind of things, I mean, if you look at sort of everyone always talks about Amazon being sort of the big sort of pioneer of personalization and that kind of stuff, and they haven't really done a lot in their personalization in a long time. But you go to Amazon because you know they've got the thousands of products, and you know that they've got the ability to ship it in no time. And that loyalty is built there because you know you can do that. Their personalization isn't that amazing. It's very product and it goes all over the place. How you compete with an Amazon like that is if you're a small provider, a small e-commerce, is you need to personalize every single one of those experiences correctly so that they want to buy from you and they still want to come to your site and they want to actually buy from you because they have a relationship with you. And so that goes with the same experience, is how do you build a real, true personal relationship in a ride-sharing program that, when you've got these big competitors out there, well, you've got to actually have that personal side of that communication and be able to kind of put the voice across and put the brand across, and be respectful of that user. It's unique to every single user.
Right, and it's not just respect. They're also kind of losing trust these days, huh?
I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the press about all kinds of different pieces in the ride-sharing community, but yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so the importance of personalized email newsletters is obvious, and you guys have an 80% increase in monthly email revenue for companies. So what are some of the most effective ways companies can communicate via email?
Well, I mean, obviously the personalization piece, if you think about publishers or e-commerce, if you've got, even if it's 10 products that you're shipping, 10 products that are available today, just the order of those products for each and every user is going to be different. A lot of it in the past, people would look at demographic data. They would look at male, female, location, these kind of things to kind of make decisions. But the fact is, the male or female doesn't actually help, right? The male may be shopping for their wife or their fiance, the female vice versa, or they may be shopping for themselves. These kind of demographic data sets don't initially work. You really need to actually personalize what that customer is telling you, because the data, the clickstream they come to the site is vitally important. And if you're not analyzing that, it's just exhaust, just data exhaust, right? It's just coming and going. I mean, you're looking at the aggregate data, but you're not building a profile of that user.
Right.
So the email piece is there, but it's not just about email. It's about making sure that that communication channel continues. If you are interested in a blue, if you go from you get an email in the morning on your phone and you go through to the website and e-commerce, there's a blue t-shirt that you look at and you go, oh, actually I like the red version. You're looking at it and you add to cart and you're like, you don't buy it on your phone because it's a pain, because you don't want to put in the credit card details or whatnot. Then you go to your desktop the next day. Well, you know what, that red t-shirt in the size that you wanted should be front and center for you so that you can get to it really quickly. And it's about continuing that thought process all the way through from channel to channel, and not just obliterating, not saying, well, we'll personalize the email based on this, and we'll personalize the website based on this, and we'll personalize this. You've really got to have just as you would expect if you had gone in and talked to a sales rep, you would expect them to remember when you come in the next day and say, oh, did you want that jacket? Oh, you want to buy that today? Oh, that's great. I've got it here, and I held it for you, and all that kind of thing. Same aspect of bringing that across.
And looking at your stats, Sailthru's solution is marked by 123% ROI and a 20% increase in customer lifetime value, just to name a few, though. So what are some of the not-so-obvious essentials behind cultivating these repeat customers?
Well, we've, you definitely see increased engagement, because it's not just about the initial lift. Right, so a lot of the stats we're talking about are sort of those lift statistics, right, of this to that. If you actually measure everything every day, the continuing engagement is vastly different. If you're a brand new e-commerce retailer and you signed up 10 users today, and you were to do the traditional response of sending them the same email to all 10 of those people every day, the chances are you're going to have one engaged customer at the end of those 10 days because you've been hitting them with the relevant details. Well, actually, if you actually tailored the response for each one of those 10 people, because as a e-commerce company with 10 customers, you could do that. You could do that manually. You would actually have maybe 9 engaged customers at the end of it. So from going from 9 to 100 is a lot easier than going from 1 to 100. It's about, and then that's on the micro scale, but really what you need to do is actually is give that, not only give the instant lift of engaging the user to buy more and to come back more often, but that actual effect of doing that creates a far more engaged audience, because the customer is talking about you more often, they're introducing their friends to the brand, they're building that community. And so it really is not just the extension of lifetime value and the lift in revenue, but the actual increase in really engagement across the entire landscape.
And you guys are doing that for a lot of big partners like Mashable, Birchbox, and The Economist. What are you learning, Neil, about startup success as you watch them grow?
Startup success is good things. It's a challenging ride. You definitely have to learn a lot as you're driving forward, and it's really about getting the right leaders in place and getting the right people and giving them the control to do what they need to do.
So you're an advisor also to many startups, including Refinery 29. What's the one thing you tell content startups about monetizing and achieving real success?
Well, it's an interesting one. I think that monetizing content is a challenging game. Obviously, you've got native advertising. I think that really the best way to do it, it's very hard for a publishing company to monetize their content without sort of monetizing it themselves. It's very difficult through third parties. I mean, the real value comes in actually selling the advertising packages yourselves. It is about creating a niche and creating a caliber of content that is phenomenal, and it is about, obviously, as I'm going to say, treating that single consumer with the best possible content, so they're always continuing to come back. It's that ability to do that will always increase that the popularity of the pages per user. So it's really about creating something that is compelling to the user, so that you can go out and monetize that and do that in real ways where you've got a real audience. And knowing about the audience enables you to sell better for your advertisers.
So would you recommend then, Neil, that if you have a content startup, so let's say you're Refinery 29, that you send every week a personalized email newsletter with the content that you think somebody would enjoy the most?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the personalization of both the web pages of the email to that individual to give them exactly what they want, right? People are more interested in denim or and in jeans than in t-shirts. People are maybe more interested in high-heeled shoes. You want to actually deliver that kind of content to that person to bring them back, because they're more likely to do that and they're more likely to engage and see the content they want to see. Because you can't do that on an individual basis. You need an algorithm to do that. It's what we do, but you need to do that at scale, and it does mean that you can factor in what's trending on the site, what's happening right now, and so all of that. So you can you easily insert the discovery into that. You also have editors that are telling us that the content is more important. What do they think should be out there? So you've got the discovery element, you've got the recommendation side, and you're putting that to the user. When you're getting a very personalized outreach from the brand, you're going to look through it and you're going to read it and you're going to go back, and that becomes habitual.
So now, how about for especially scrappy startups who lack that budget for marketing and paid campaigns? What are some of your preferred growth hacks, as the buzzwords are declaring today, for those early stage companies?
So the growth hacks for the early stage companies, huh? I think that knowing the earlier the market of who you're trying to get to, and how much it costs to get to those users, the better. And it's even on a micro scale of Google AdWords of dollars a day, finding out that customer base that's the most effective. And so it's not just about getting the signups, but it's actually making sure that you get the signups and the page views that come with that signup and the return visits, because you may be building a niche over here, but you're attracting a user base over here, and that really has to combine. So you want to start watching that from the get-go, because then you can actually start doing the mathematics to say, okay, well, if I spend X here, I'm going to result in Y value here.
Great. So Sailthru was named as the second fastest growing New York startup by Inc. So first of all, congratulations. And next, we want to talk to you about that growth. You guys have a mentality of hiring people, Neil, who are smarter than you. Has that changed at all as the company's evolved?
No, I think it's even more intense on that side of things. I'm looking for very experienced people that have been through the growth factors before, and are very smart, and they know their realm. I mean, it's definitely about, as the company grows, you definitely change into cycles of management where it's really about making sure that they just have the power to do what they need to do, and really just guiding the conversation and becoming more and more of a facilitator as the company grows.
So what's the first question you ask then when you bring someone in for an interview?
I ask them to tell me a story about their life, usually from what they've done from the beginning of school onwards, and sort of just take me through their resume in a verbal form very quickly. So I ask them to sort of give me an overview of their life. It gives me a lot of intel to sort of understand where the choices that they've made, and then go into that with them and start the discussion that way. I'm not a big resume person. I'm more of looking at the experiences of a person and seeing that they've been able to really make the right decisions.
Do you think the classic resume is dissolving?
I don't know if it's dissolving. I think I think there's going to be many formats of resumes in the future, more graphical, more online side of things. But I think the underlying status of that resume is still the same data. Still the same data at the bottom, as it were. Just a different layer of interpretation.
Just looking at the strength of your organization, I can tell one of the most significant aspects of your culture is, I would say, leadership. So how are you creating these leaders in your organization?
So we actually have quite a few programs. I've had a business coach for a long time. And what we actually do is, I'd love to have coaches for everybody in the company that manages people. That doesn't really scale. So what we've done is really we have coaching programs for everybody that are managers, and we have certain different styles of that. And so we're evolving a program actually around that. whereby we have coaches, one-on-one coaching for the first-time managers for a 6-week period. Then we move that on into a peer coaching program whereby they hold each other accountable to themselves so that they can actually build a group and sort of really kind of talk about discussion problems, how they handle things. And so really we're trying to build very much a coaching infrastructure. I mean, I used to, back in the old days, I used to be a ski instructor and a ski coach for teaching kids to ski race, and that really brought a lot of use today to really kind of coaching level and bringing people to the next level. And I think that it's incredibly important to kind of build that in, because I think that a lot of companies' management is very much a case of top down, and it's really, I find, the responsibility of the manager to actually engage an employee to get them to perform. But when you look at a lot of mid-year reviews and end-year review questions, they're all focused on what did the employee do. Well, actually, it's like, what did the manager enable the employee to do? And we put a lot more onus on the actual manager being the person that's going to bring the employee to the next level. So it's just I think there's a lot of companies that do this, but I think at the same time it's a different approach, because it's very much about saying, okay, how is the manager measured on bringing someone up to the next level? How are they measured on bringing that engagement?
Right, and you have a really interesting take on work-life balance as well. You allow people to work when and how is best for them. But is this scalable when it comes to, say, 1,000 or 2,000 people?
I believe it is. So I'll tell you, I was actually having this discussion with my wife the other day, and it's like, so it's a results-only work environment. It's like, come on, people come and go as they please and whatnot, as long as they're getting the work done. If they need to be on the phone, if they need to be answering support lines, and they need to be there for certain times, but that's a team profile, and they can do that. But it goes back to what I was just saying, is that it's the manager's responsibility to make sure the employee is engaged, doing what they need to do, and getting their work done. It's not about saying to an employee, you must be here from 9 till 6 because I need you here from 9 to 6, because that's not going to engage the employee. That's not going to actually get them to perform any better. That's just going to make sure that they're there. And that's going to make people feel more comfortable because they're there. But that doesn't actually get you anything. All it gets you is just the employee sitting there. Same way as, if I have a all-hands meeting and I say everybody has to be there, the fact is that I make everybody be there. I don't actually get any feedback. If I don't know, if people are sitting there on their phones and completely bored, I need to, by knowing that it's a voluntary meeting that they're coming to, that I will know when attendance drops off, there's a problem. The onus has been far too much on sort of management by top-down approach, and really I think it's a symbiotic, the manager to managee is a symbiotic relationship.
Right. And so when you see that employee, though, who's lacking a little bit of that initiative, how does that manager really get them into gear?
Well, it's about finding out what the problem is, right? Why isn't that employee engaged? If you force someone to be at their desk from a certain time and period, you don't know you can't really judge their engagement side of things. They may play face, they may, placate, they go to different things and they're at the meetings, but they're not engaged. If you actually have a results-only work environment like that, where people can come and go, then they start, they're drifting out of the organization. You're like, well, what's the problem? Are you not getting what you should be from me, i.e. the manager? Are you not getting what you need from me? Am I not giving you the right advice? Am I not giving you the right direction? And it's vitally important to me that anyone in the company can actually say to their manager, I'm not getting what I need from you, and feel safe doing so. And I think that's really kind of the way that it needs to be, because then you can actually, you can fix the problem.
So let's say you have a traditional 9-to-5 workplace and the managers are wanting to make this shift. What's the first step that's small and easy and not too risk-averse for them that they can take to kind of make that shift?
It's funny you asked that question. I actually think it would be very difficult to move to this. I think it's easier to start and evolve it and change it as you go and whatnot. I think it would be very difficult to say take an organization of 500 or even 200 or even 100 people and say, okay, this is what we're moving to. That I would definitely think would be quite a challenge, because you're definitely going to have to do evaluations of where those managers are and how many people are actually just going to fall off the edge of them.
So it's that drastically different then?
I think it is. I think that I think it is if you're trying to change an organization to it. When I look at our organization, I don't think it's drastically different. You see people here early and late. We're scaling fast and we have a lot of hard workers. People are here and engaged, and so I don't think it's vastly different. I think that it does put more onus and more measurement on the manager.
All right, now this next question comes from Cora. How's the day-to-day job for a software engineer at Sailthru?
Day-to-day job as software engineer. There's a lot of work that goes on. We have sprint teams, as normal agile kind of aspect, and it's definitely a hard-paced environment. The engineers are responsible for their own code, and so they're on alerts a lot of the time as they go through, and we build out the teams to make sure that they get the right support to continue that development. But it's we define the product aspect from the product arm of the business, and that gets handed over to sort of the engineering team to develop. But it's we're a PHP and Java shop, predominantly more and more Java. It's a challenging field of large data sets where you're accessing data sets that are tremendously different from other companies, because we really when you look at marketing platforms and whatnot, they're getting a very marginal piece of data. And when you're talking to us, we're looking at massive data sets of everything that's happened on our customers' website. So there's an awful lot of data to look at and to access, and it's a big system, so it's challenging.
I want to shift gears for a second, Neil, and talk about one of your heroes, Elon Musk. He's one of my heroes too. So I want to know, what have you learned about resilience from him?
Resilience, I would have to say, he's the king of that. You definitely, in entrepreneurship, it's definitely the highs are high and the lows are incredibly low, and you need the highs to outnumber the lows, and when every so often they don't, and you have to power through and you have to keep going. I think that it's definitely a hard job to be an entrepreneur, but at the same time it's a very fun job. I think that the biggest thing for most people is stepping off the cliff, as it were, doing it. And I would advise that people, when they're on that moment where they think they should do it, they should, because I think that it'll always be there. And even if you fail, and I failed many times before, it's you get up and keep going, but you've tried. And I think that if you don't, it's really kind of very difficult to be happy when you've got that urge behind you that wants to do it.
So true. So now, as you look ahead towards international expansion and possibly filing for an IPO, what needs to happen for you to feel successful not only as CEO, but personally?
Personally, I want to build a $100 million revenue business out of New York in the SaaS space that's not in the ad space. That's my objective, and that's really what we're kind of building for, and I'm excited to do that.
So you've also shared, Neil, and I want to close with this, that you're very fascinated by double hitters. Do you have any plans or big dreams after Sailthru?
Not yet. I know that I will. I can't even imagine a time without Sailthru right now. I still very much enjoy coaching and bringing people to the next level and building the company. So really, for me, it's continuing to do that, and I'm looking forward to running the company for many years from now.
We're looking forward to watching you do that. Can you let people know how they can get in touch with Sailthru and start using your solution?
Yeah, they can email me, Neil at Sailthru. But yeah, you can go to the website and download our white papers, and our team will be in touch. But yeah, please do.
Excellent. To be continued. Thank you.
Thank you very much.